What's going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 4, Smash in Session. Thanks for joining us today. We got a lot of stuff to talk about around the world of Smash. Still online as we are right now, working towards that offline session, but joined by me today. Obviously, I'm Hazmat. Thanks for coming in today. Joined by some of my favorite people in all of Smash, Charles, Bam, and Paz. What's going on, guys? What's happening?
What is up, brother? How you doing, man?
What's up? I'm doing good. Got my first shot of the vaccine. I'm looking forward to being somewhat a regular person by the time the year's over. So that's cool. See what happens there.
Yeah, same here, man. Got my second, so I'm happy, man. I'm just waiting for a few days, and then I should be up to the 95% or 96% or whatever from Pfizer. So Pfizer gang all day. That's what's up. And
same, bro. I'm in there.
Life.
Yep.
There you go.
We can chill. We can vibe. Yep.
Yes, sir.
Paz, Charles, what's going on, guys?
Yeah. So definitely. I mean, same boat. Pretty much just waiting, and it's definitely. I'm sure that as these things are rolling out, everyone is kind of has that question, whether at the front or the back of their minds, in terms of, okay, when do we start to transition into the offline era again? Like, do we start with the invitationals first? Do we do small locals first? How do we best proceed, and how do we do it in the safest manner possible and most realistic manner possible? Because I know we're all very, very excited as Ultimate players. We're all tired of the Wi-Fi and the online. Yeah. So I don't know. What are your guys' first impressions about that whole possibility sort of emerging now?
I think we'll have invitationals around Q3 of the year. That's what I think. Maybe Q4 we'll have public events where it's non-invitational, everyone can come together, depending on how everything rolls out. I think for sure by early next year we'll have public events. It's just I feel like as a TO, it's always it's always a scary thought being am I gonna be the first person to give it a whirl? You know what I mean? How do you even go through those procedures? Do you require vaccination paperwork? Blah blah. Right? There's a lot of different. It's just gonna be a very different environment coming back, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely, man. I mean, he said who's going to do it first. I mean, I do think kind of what Paz was saying. I think that it's definitely going to be the wave for people to do invitationals. So I think those are going to pop up first. And I think that's a really exciting way to kind of come into things too. Because when you really look at it, I know we've talked about it so many times too, right? Over the course of the couple years. I mean, well, the year and a half that we've been in quarantine. But the idea is that, man, there's been so many patches, so many things going on that everyone wants to know what everyone's been labbing, what people have been pushing together. And also they want to see their favorite players from different regions actually battle it out, right? And seeing those kind of matchups. And so I think invitations sit in the perfect space for people to kind of get their feet wet, get some people excited about it. Man, it's going to push the game. Then we're going to figure out where the game really is at right now, right? We are seeing little blips here and there with some offline, but seeing those kind of invitationals with those high stakes, I think are going to be really cool. And I think that a lot of people are just not only endemic in our space, but non-endemics who are interested in getting in Smash. You'll probably see them supporting something of that nature happening soon. So don't be too surprised if you see some cool offline invitationals coming in the next few years, few months.
Yeah. Next few years. Oh shit.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
You didn't hear that. Cut the tape, man.
You didn't hear that from me. Yeah, I agree with you guys. I think it's the best way. I think the kind of silver lining of the pandemic is that we've learned how to deal with things and how to not reintroduce and put big numbers together all at once. And, even though people are vaccinated, it's still good to kind of take baby steps, because not just about, keeping people healthy and good, but also feeling good. You don't want people to show up to an event and feel overwhelmed, not enjoying themselves, all that good stuff. Yeah. So you don't want something, God forbid, you don't want something bad to happen. The first one that comes back, you go too far and it's well, shit, that could have a big ripple effect, affect every event going forward. So we got to take baby steps here. I think people will just be, I think it'll be kind of naturally growing too. People will just be excited to see top players playing again, and also getting some regionals and all that other stuff kind of at the local level going. All that stuff will be sufficient for a little while, and before you're kind of back to normal, or however you want to put it. So I think we'll build up to it. I think it's just the fact that it's on the table and that it's coming up soon, I think is just super exciting. And I think it's something that we've seen from, I mean, remember the hype from the Japan tournament that happened a few weeks ago. It's insane. Like people want to come back and come offline. It truly is. I'm not an anime guy. I know other people might be like, whatever, to each their own, but this is like the training arc, like everyone wanted the anime training arc, right? Like that's what the fuck this is, I guess. I've watched Dragon Ball, so this is like the hyperbolic time chamber or whatever. So now we're going to pop out of it and see who has their shit together, basically, who does. Because I guarantee you some top players are going to do shitty. And I guarantee you some quote unquote unknown offline players are going to do great. I guarantee it. I guarantee that shit is going to be crazy for sure.
Oh yeah. It's going to be absolutely wild, man.
Yeah, we've already definitely seen some surprising results from the Smash World Tour Europe the other, last weekend, I think it was, where there were a lot of missing names from the list that qualified, and it surprised a lot of people. And what do you guys think about that in terms of the meta and how, if it does end up being offline, how that might look and how that might affect the whole rankings and scene as a whole?
And it's crazy because, like you said, it's I know a lot of people were super shocked by everything, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, man, it's stupid online, this and that." But again, online plays a factor in this stuff for sure. I do think that we're gonna have some new blood come into form. Again, this game is still a relatively new game, right? And just they've made good strides in a lot of things, so. I think people are going to realize that some of these online players are kind of nice. They're not oh man, these guys are just winning for free. Sonic is just winning for free. It's just, there's so many people just thinking that these people are not that skilled. And once offline is going to be clockwork. I don't think so, man. I think some people are going to come here and be like, you know what? It's my time to chase the throne. So. I'm actually really excited to see these guys do some work.
Well, shit changes over a year anyway, whether or not we go to this offline format or not. A lot would have changed regardless, in terms of the rankings and all that stuff.
Especially with the DLC.
Would have been, the DLC, the patches, all that shit. It would have changed a lot. So I think we were due for some change. I think it's going to be a little more dramatic based on, I do think the Wi-Fi does that, or the online play does that a little bit to it. Because I don't know if you guys have had offline sessions throughout the pandemic or the quarantine. I've had a couple, and it feels like a different game, honestly. There are definitely some options that are stronger for sure on Wi-Fi, and there's some instances of less consistent play. But I think overall, the people who are grinding and playing will be rewarded ultimately at the end of the day, for sure. I don't think you're going to see any of these guys who are doing great flop. I don't think that's really going to happen. I would be surprised if any of these, players who really picked it up during quarantine did poorly. I'll be fucking surprised, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, one trend that I've noticed just watching the Smash World Tour throughout, as it's going on, there's so many players that make it so deep into the bracket, and what impresses me the most is a lot of these players, their first game is Ultimate, or they started playing in 2020 or 2019 or 2018. It's just wow. And just watching the way they move, obviously, like we said, there's specific options on Wi-Fi that are just stronger, right? But even just watching the way they move, for an example, a very strong Wi-Fi option is rolling into a buffered forward tilt or something into a reversal, right? That's not going to happen offline, but online you essentially have two normal getups. You can do normal getup, or you can roll, which is another normal getup that puts you somewhere else, and it's just harder for your opponent to react to it, right? They have to kind of super pre-position for it. But even then, it's more so what I'm impressed about is just watching the players, how they move, their execution on specific combos, and it's just oh dang, you can do all of this with Wi-Fi lag, right? And you've only been playing for a year or something like that. So I just feel like the bigger and bigger Ultimate gets, the more competitive it's generally going to get. And I feel like there's going to be some kind of fire under the top players, in a sense where it's just oh, well, people are out there grinding really, really hard. So you're to kind of stay where you're at in the rankings, you're going to have to work a little harder than you had to a year ago or something like that, right? It kind of feels like it's scaling up.
Yep, you got to show me something new.
Mm-hmm. And there are going to be top players who haven't been playing as much as they should, and I'm sure they're looking at the clock. They're oh fuck, it's almost May already. Yep. I gotta get my shit together. I really do, because it's time. And those excuses and not that they're not legitimate now, moving to offline, that see me offline shit, it's happening. It's coming up. That see me in Ultimate, remember that came up real fast. People still started going 1 and 2. Well, I saw you in Ultimate, it wasn't that great, but I'm gonna see you offline, and you better come correct, right?
Yo, talk that talk. Yeah, better come correct or don't come at all, man.
It's fucking real, man. It's just so many of them. Yeah, just exactly. It's gonna be interesting. It's all I'm gonna say. It's gonna be very, very interesting.
And I mean, I think the stakes are like that much higher now too, right? Because a lot of these people, like, let's be real. There's a lot of people here, obviously a lot of people ended up getting like, unemployment, all those kind of things because especially if Smash was your job, you weren't able to travel and do these kind of things, right? So it's like you got to think of it like you come back, that's not going to be something that's going to be an option anymore, and it's like a lot of people are going to be like, hey, got to get to you got to now go back in the workforce, do your thing, try to do what you can, and it's like if you haven't been practicing, you haven't been playing, and this is your livelihood. Bro, you better. I hope you have some hidden technique that you were saving till nationals, bro, because that is going to be a rough thing when you go and you're trying to now people are looking for sponsors because now it's offline and you can't show up to bat. All right, I'm telling you, man, there's gonna be some heartache coming from offline. There's gonna be some joy and some sorrow. It's not just gonna be all joy. There's gonna be some sorrow. I guarantee you.
Change. Any change is going to have an effect, good and bad. And I think that's another thing is I'm interested to seeing how many, and this was already starting to become a trend with top players, where they would rather than go to an offline tournament, stream at home all day and stream the tournament and commentate over it. So that kind of the landscape was shifting towards that direction anyway. And I think we'll see it in regular life too, where people are going to be working at home more regularly. This is kind of becoming a thing because dude, as a top player, a lot of people saw a huge bump in numbers and subs and views and all that shit when they did well at a tournament. And then if you busted a tournament, it's bad until the next tournament, and you got to try again. It's like this vicious cycle of that's why I told Mars, I was like, going into the quarantine, I was like, you couldn't have won the biggest tournament of all time at a better time. You just couldn't have, because you're the Genesis champion going into quarantine, and that's it. It's a lock until for at least probably 2 years. You're good, and that's a great time to transition into focusing on your stream and stuff, because that was another thing. Finding the balance is tough too. I want to practice a lot, but if I'm talking to chat the whole time, it's not sufficient, really, really high top level practice. So finding a balance is going to be very, very interesting kind of going forward. And we said we're probably going to be trickling in with these events at first. So I think it'll be easy to kind of find that, because it'll be hyped just to go to them at first. But as things get back to normal and the expectations come in, you're going to see a lot of people feeling the pressure for sure. And I really feel for top players in that way. They got a lot of good stuff, from the community and the scene and all that. But man, the pressure of I feel pressure just trying not to go, 4-2 in pools or whatever. Pressure I put on myself. Imagine you got a sponsor and you got money and viewers and subs that you don't want to let down, all this shit.
Yep.
It's a lot of pressure, man.
You got people watching you, man, hoping that you're doing the best. And so it's you're not doing that, then it's gonna be rough.
See ya.
Yeah, and the landscape has definitely shifted, as you were saying, in terms of it was already shifting this way in terms of what sponsors and teams are looking for. It's no longer just about how well can you place consistently. It's definitely a lot more of okay, how many eyes do you have on your Twitch, Twitter? How much content are you doing? What presence do you have in the community? All things like that. So it definitely adds that extra layer of pressure. So, and trying to find that balance, because once the offline stuff comes back, it's definitely going to be very, very tricky. And and it even it begs the question again, like you were saying, are people? I mean, I'm sure this will happen, but how many people are going to be saying, hey, well, I can't, take this much time off my Twitch stream to travel to this tournament, this tournament, this tournament. I have to keep up my viewership and my subs and everything, and I earn, I get more out of staying home than doing all this traveling. So it also,
why gamble on a poor tournament performance? It's going to fuck your numbers up when you can just sit at home and get your constant stuff.
No, and it also makes me wonder if tournaments are going to have to adapt to that in a sense. Maybe provide something that'll make the experience as a whole more worthy of maybe being like live streamed like on the ground, like POV type situations, stuff like that, or just more in general, things to get people to go to the venue, not just only to compete, but also to, also like, there's always chatting with your peers and everything, and that's always fun. But there's other stuff like I know that Frostbite has been doing that's really great, like how they celebrate the artists and they have like panels and things like that, and making it more of like a convention like experience. Because I know that's why also like Super Smash Con has always been one of the favorite events, and Evo is pretty similar in that respect too. So it just makes me wonder like what tournaments are going to adapt, and if they're even going to be able to adapt, because some of these people are doing this just for the love of it, and it's hard to keep up with all these like huge demands a lot of the time, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, man. I tell you guys right now, there's a lot of tournaments that probably will not see for a while. It's not just going to be that we go into offline and we're back full swing, all the stuff. Not only are the tournaments are going to be substantially smaller, not only are we going to more likely to see most of the time invitational, right? Invitationals, and see that kind of archetype. Like that's pretty much all we're going to see, man. Like there's a lot of these greater tournaments. It's like, dude, I got hit too hard. I can't, if I wanted to, I have to wait for an extra year to really get into things. And at that point, the truth of the matter is, it just may not make even sense to me. It may not be fiscally responsible for me to go ahead and go into these tournaments. And like, so there's a lot of stuff where it's like, it's what's done is done. And it's rough, man, but it's an unfortunate truth. So, yeah, it's going to be crazy to kind of see, not only from like you said, from the artist galleries to all these kind of things, like how is that going to be incorporated into things, but also what's going to happen with these TOs themselves. It's a rough life, man. But I mean, going into kind of the I'm even just curious about what is the social dynamic going to be at these tournaments too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we have all the stuff that took place, last year and like in June, July, with the kind of Me Too movement that happened. But even outside of that, man, it's like you have the pandemic, there's a lot of people who just in general were very turned off with kind of the stuff going on in this Smash community about just like, people just being always upset about the game, like if we're, putting aside everything else that went on with the Me Too movement, like I said. Some people are just like, man, I don't want to be around people, period, because I'm still worried about what's going on with this vaccine. It's only going to last X amount of time. We're eventually going to get another one. So do I even want to put myself in a position where I could be compromised, et cetera, et cetera. We have a couple of people, a group of people who kind of come into games too because they love games. They play them online. And like some of these people have their immune system is essentially compromised, right? I already know a couple people in NorCal. They're kind of in that same boat too. It's like, are they going to be going to tournaments now? Once we go to offline? Probably not. And probably not for a very long time. So there's a lot of things that are going to take from those tournaments as well, where it's like, even if people would come to even small invitational stuff too, you may see some dips, but let alone like main tournaments, man, it's going to be crazy, man. Yeah.
I think, there's going to be a lot of changes in a lot of different ways. I think it's one of the main, kind of topics that we're getting back to. And I think it's all going to be stuff that needs to be, again, slowly ramped up and brought up. We can see that an offline tournament works in a very small, you control the sample size, right? Like it's very small, 10, 15 people invitational. All right, blow that up, 50 people, like, and then, 100, and then we'll see kind of where we go from there. And the social dynamics, I think it's a really important one too. And I think it's just going to be interesting in terms of all the changes that are going to be happening between, like you said, Pam, the pandemic, everything that happened this summer within the community itself and within the world at large. Like there's just been a lot of stuff that's been going on, and how people conduct themselves and how they act is going to be very important, obviously, especially in our community. You know what I mean? We were definitely under a microscope this summer, to say the least. So it'll be really, really important to make sure that there are good, solid rules in place and that they're all being followed and enforced by the right people. So people got to step up, basically, is how I feel.
Yeah. It's going to be definitely like a scaling thing, I feel. TOs are going to try things out on a local level if those things go well, regional level. But yeah, just really the amount of change that is going to happen from, us coming back to offline to when we stopped going offline, there's like a billion factors that are going to have to change, and we have to feel them out. And it definitely, we're going to have to feel them out, smaller, local sized and regional, medium sized. And obviously once you collect a lot of data, see how people feel about certain things, then then kind of go ahead. So even just kind of thinking of it in that perspective, it probably won't be till next year till someone is going to even take that risk, right? Like just financially, because everyone has to realize too, a lot of these TOs, they lost a lot of money when COVID hit.
Yeah,
so,
people forget that shit. That's a good point, Chuck.
They already were
huge hit, and they didn't make much money to begin with anyway, right? Especially just or like grassroots Smash tournaments. So it sucked. It definitely really sucked. So I just feel like we'll see how it goes, kind of deal, and just kind of. I think it'll be really interesting too to see how content changes as well. Hotel streams could be a thing. Even what do you call it, for Tweak Talks? We were talking about like, oh, it'd be really cool if we had this like at an event kind of thing, like a podcasting at the event, or even I think Panda does this really well at Frostbite, where they kind of integrate casual content with the tournament. So like the Alpharad items tournament, stuff like that. Like I think we have the potential to kind of see more of that kind of content at bigger tournaments, when bigger tournaments roll around, that kind of like integrates, other top players' platforms and their streams and content with the tournament, and possibly like go from there.
Dude,
I think
it's a good idea.
Phenomenal.
It's a good idea, and they do this at like PAX and shit. And I always thought it was weird that they did it at PAX, but you could like rent a PC and like play. You could buy a PAX or pass for PAX, and you just rent a really nice PC and like play PC games. Like that's fucking weird, but a lot of people did it. But what if we had that at a tournament where there's just a stream set up, and people could just stream from it, like, and just be live and like do their normal shit, and like you get a time slot. Like that's pretty. I don't know. I think that's a pretty cool idea. You pay for a slot, and that's it.
For sure. I mean, they actually did it at some. They did
genius.
That and some dream hacks as well, where they had actual places where people can sit down and they can essentially run their stream. Even some like companies, right? If they're like apparel companies that had like kind of cool like stream equipment, then they would set that up for people so they can check out their product, right? So I think that's really great. I think that there's a lot of ways that non-endemic companies can come in with sponsorships with that too, and have these content creators on their streaming and giving people another point of view. And I think that really will help facilitate this idea that players can be content creators simultaneously, right? And so, it's still going to be a lot of work, right? Kind of being always on camera and doing that thing. But I think there's a way that they can kind of not just outright sacrifice everything, when they go to tournaments, so to speak. I'd love to see that. I think that would be great. I've always been a fan of that, and hope to one day be able to support some stuff in that kind of like in a very like similar manner, But just it's going to be. I think if people are really willing to kind of sit down as a community and really trying to address some of these things that are going to be coming up, I think this transition to offline could actually be something that can be very beneficial for the community. But again, that comes down to people coming together and sitting down, and people.
Yeah, that goes.
History, right? So
and I think honestly, I think you guys will agree with me. I mean, this isn't our first rodeo. We've all been to a lot of majors and a lot of big tournaments and shit. It's kind of the same thing. You kind of fly to the middle. You go to a city, and then bam! I think you put it well. You go to an abandoned warehouse and you play Smash all weekend, and like that's kind of, maybe there's whatever. Other shit going on, but for the most part, it's pretty much it. You get on a plane, land, go do your Smash thing, and then you go home. And it's like the events that really stuck out and really did well offered some additional shit with it. And I think that's kind of where we're going with this, is that we might have a better path forward to understanding what people want to see. It's probably exhausting for a content creator to be on all weekend, but if they don't sign up and take those hours to be a content creator, someone else will. And that's the hustle, right? Like that's where it kind of comes from. Like if you want to kind of have your cake and eat it too. You're going to have to work a little bit harder or be, you know, a little more tired. You might have to manage your time. You go there, and Chuck, you said this also while we're on a break. You show up to work. You know what I mean? That's a weekend for us as commentators. It's work. Like I'm looking at fucking brackets and watching YouTube videos and shit when I go to do commentary or whatever. Not everyone does, obviously, but it's the way that it should be. And the way, if you want to keep and make Smash your professional job, you got to treat it like that. You got to treat it professionally. So it's exhausting, and that, you know, that's not. I'm not saying it's like you have to do it every time or whatever. But if you want to keep chasing your bag and you want to go to tournaments and play well, it's hard work, man. It's not easy to be a top player. If it was, everyone would do it. It's true. It's true.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, speaking of top players, though, I want to ask you guys this. I mean, I know a lot of people are leaning towards the Japanese players.
Mm-hmm.
All right, calm down. All right, I know you beat Mars, but relax. All right,
true.
Mars should never let you win, bro. I was kidding.
He had no idea.
Very great.
Blindsided him with that shit. That was awful. He had no idea. He's like reading chat.
Yeah, I'm sure you ShamWowed him. I'm sure.
I got him. Now he wants me to play him on this stream. I'm like, nah, I'm good, dude. I'm good. I'm gonna pass on that. I think we're never playing again. Man. Yeah, hold that.
Oh, for sure.
See me offline.
Oh my gosh, the classic. But yeah, I mean, like, who do you guys think in terms of like their regions, right? What region are you most excited to see kind of come to bat? Like, you know, if we do have this like kind of the invitational sagas, as you will, where like we just have a ton of an invitation on invitational. Like, what region are you really excited to see come to bat, and what region do you think is going to kind of dominate this like initial season of invitationals?
Let's preface with no home team bias. Like, I'm not going to say New England because obviously that's what I think. Like, duh, of course. But the first one that came to my mind,
I'm talking global,
Florida,
too, by the way.
Florida, baby. I don't care.
Yeah.
I do not care. Japan, obviously, they've been having real offline tournaments. Florida, dude. They've always been a threat. I feel like they got the hunger. I think they have a great young squad and a veteran squad to teach them how to play the game and do all that shit. I think they have healthy, competitive attitudes, man. I've always loved Florida Smash, so I think they're always a threat, and I think this is no exception to that rule. They're always nasty.
Yeah.
That's my pick.
In terms of individual players, two players that kind of stick out to me that have been on the grind this whole time, have kind of
Tweak and Void.
Wi-Fi. Yeah, and here's another thing too. It's definitely Tweak and Void, but they've also started like coaching on Metafy, which I think just like makes you a better player. Like somewhat obviously, if that's all you do, then like you're taking away from like your improvement as a player. But I think it opens up different perspectives, and teaching someone the game can just open up different avenues of how you think about the game. So both of them have been coaching, so that's really been cool to see and help them out with. And then as a region, it's definitely got to be Japan by far, just because they've been practicing offline, and I don't know, like on paper, but I think they have the best Wi-Fi. Like in terms of Nintendo Ultimate Wi-Fi, like
they do.
They have the best one. And even like with Smash World Tour Japan coming up, even if it's Wi-Fi, I think it's still going to be really, really legit, just because of how good their Wi-Fi is. And I mean, it makes sense, right? Nintendo's a Japanese company, so I'm not surprised that their whole Wi-Fi system is geared around, you know, the internet they have in their country, and it, you know, works really well. So, yeah, really excited to see Japan compete. And I think even just the timing of Smash World Tour is like really hype for this reason, right? Even though maybe some players that would have qualified if it was an offline tournament didn't qualify because it was online tournament, all that other stuff, like putting that aside, like that has probably happened and will still probably happen in like very small degrees, not to the point where like super duper matters. I think Europe Smash World Tour is probably like one of the most like mind-boggling ones in terms of like, oh wow, like this all these different players like didn't qualify. You know what I mean? Even when I looked at the list of players, I only really noticed a few. So, and I was just surprised about, you know, all the other players that didn't make it. But in that, like, to that note, though, just having all those players have an opportunity to kind of transition, like, because there's going to be so much players that are nice on Wi-Fi, but just don't have the resources to show their stuff off at an offline tournament, and that is That's probably one of the biggest tragedies of Smash, because we don't have like direct developer support or anything like that. There's so much people that are really good at Smash that will never be able to show that they're good at Smash
Yeah.
because they can't afford to buy a flight, or maybe they did that one time and they saved up a year to do it, and then they choked because you've never been in that situation before, right? And like all these other players
Yeah.
constantly put themselves in their situation, and
Yeah.
and so it's like I think Smash World Tour has incredible timing for this, because it gives the opportunity to all the people that have been grinding Wi-Fi, that chance to be able to compete in that offline environment and really like show off what you can do.
Mm-hmm.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And I think those 2 points are kind of intertwined too, between not just it being, an online result, or being a little surprised that people like Mr. R didn't qualify through the European tour, but it's also like, man, maybe we just don't know shit about who's actually good at this game. You know what I mean? It's a combination, of course, like obviously the Wi-Fi,
Different game, too.
It's just, exactly. It's big, man. We're at a turning point in this game, and then we got hit with a freaking pandemic, on top of new characters, on top of balance patches, all this other shit that's a factor.
Yeah.
Where we're getting hit with like a new era of all these great players that are coming in, but it's like we don't even, and that's what I love about the Smash World Tour, is it's like this opportunity for like, even looking at Europe Twitter, it's like, dude, how did you guys not know about X, Y, and Z player? Like, how didn't you guys know about it? I was like, dude, what the hell? What do you mean? How did I know? Of course I didn't know. Like, this is like kind of the point of the whole thing, is that you guys got a nasty Bayo, who's like one of my new favorite players to watch, nasty with a ton of characters. Glutoni obviously still doing his thing post nerfs, still looking amazing. It's just the the scope of Smash is just so, it's obviously focused more around US than anything else, which is kind of where all the big streams and players and all that stuff are. But the talent, man, I mean, we always talk about hidden threats. They are just, it's like
They're
a
all
horde of
over.
them. It's like unlimited of them. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like they just never stop coming. There are just so many of them, and Ultimate is just enormous, and it's really cool to see new top talent really emerge and get a chance to show off their stuff. And the shit is really going to pop for Smash World Tour. The US one is going to be a shit show, obviously. Like that is going to be nuts. There's going to be drama on top of disconnects, on top of lag, on top of all this other, all that other shit. It's going to be so many dramatic. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Absolutely. If there's anything, we've learned throughout this era, that's certainly a thing.
Yeah.
And what was the other thing I was going to say? It was like, so once the US one pops off, not only is that going to be like super entertaining and full of dramatics, but then they're going to have to play against these like hidden bosses that really want to prove themselves. They're hidden bosses to us because we're ignorant, Americans basically, right? And so these hidden bosses will get their shot, and I guarantee you some of them are going to shoot to kill, and it's going to work out, and they're going to cause some big upsets. I guarantee it. But the Smash we've all been watching these last few weekends has been fucking amazing.
Yeah. No, for sure. Pause. Like, who do you think, in terms of any regions, that you think that could dominate in some of these invitationals that are going to be coming up, or any regions of interest on your side?
Yeah, I'm definitely like, always Japan's always a very, very interesting region for sure. But I'm also like looking forward to seeing a lot more from Mexico in general, because they've proven time and time again how strong they are, and yet it feels like they're still sort of underrated in a sense. Even though we do have like some of the best players in the world being from Mexico. So I definitely do want to see more of them. But moreover, in terms of regions getting their spotlight, I definitely at some point, obviously this isn't going to be anytime soon, but eventually down the line, I would definitely love to see a lot more people from the US traveling abroad to all these other regions, whether it be South America, Japan, and more tournaments in Europe, just to see, just so that even more people can sort of get that chance to shine, pretty much. Because it's one thing when you have, the Smash World Tour is doing this great thing by having these sort of like region locked competitions between, and you get to see all their top talent. But it's always very, very exciting where you see some of the best people from the US being able to travel and fight pretty much everyone that they can over there, rather than just, a couple here and there from a specific region. So I definitely do want to see that overall. And I think that will cause a lot of like positive discussion, and a lot of very interesting discussion in terms of like the rankings and the meta and everything like that. So I think that's what I'm more so looking forward to in the, I guess, not so near future. but it's definitely something to like keep in mind now that we do have the Smash World Tour going on. I definitely do want to see more of us coming to like over them, basically.
Yeah, I'm with that too. And it's funny, Paz, I'm totally with you on Mexico, man. That's my pick. I really, like I said, like of course Japan's been able to play offline. They've been doing their thing. They're jamming it. They've always been really strong in that way. And I think that you see a lot of exciting things going on with their was it what's the Pokemon trainer over there? I think it's Altair, I believe, but he's like looking like the best Pokemon trainer. He's been super dominant. They have a hero that's been really strong over there. A lot of people are kind of rising up, to kind of usurp some of the common names that we know in Japan. But man, every single time, like Mexico just continues to impress me, man. Alan Dis is like ridiculous. That snake is insane. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw that grand finals that happened between him and Leo when Leo was playing Byleth, but that fool actually embarrassed Leo. That was actually ridiculous.
He's nasty. He's nasty.
That fool was just like he's like, nah, you going to bed today. I'm going to play. You're going to watch me play. And that's it. Like it was actually ridiculous. Like the way he was playing against him, right? And it's like it's just again and again we see this, man. And I do hope one thing comes of this where these players from the Smash World Tour going into Invitational will be able to showcase that, hey, we are not just a fun region to watch if we just so happen to be on the channel. Like, no, we're dominant. You guys need to respect us. You guys need to watch us. And people follow suit. And also, yeah, I mean, I do hope that more people travel. I mean, I almost feel like there needs to be a Mr. R like scholarship. And it's just we just send this dude around or somebody honestly, I feel like it would just be a great thing to see if we just had something where we have some of these top players and stuff, whoever it may be, and we just send people out, man. Let them go to South America. Let them go to Brazil. Let them go to Chile. Let them go out there and play these guys and see what they're about. Because there's a lot of people who are talented. And, we could have a kind of MK Leo effect, that happens in these spaces where it's like, wait, these guys are great. Dude, I think sometimes people don't even get how ridiculous it is in Mexico for Leo, where it's like, dude, there's the government celebrating this dude, and also he is a treasure. They value him very highly for what he's doing, right? And it's because it is such a big deal, and I think that also gives opportunities to more Smash events and more things being elevated and supported and built and growing and growing and growing. And that the rising tide floats all boats. So I would love to see more of that happening in some capacity. But these players need to be visible, man. They need to be, because there's a lot of them that are so good. It's just it is a crime not to see them be a part of the meta that we're witnessing out here.
I think even beyond that, I think it's beneficial for everyone to get Smashers out there and traveling and seeing the world anyway. I think beyond the competition, which is obviously huge, and the exposure for both the scenes and all the players and all that shit, that's all great. I think growing as humans, I think that's one of the main reasons, if not the main reason, you should be in the Smash community, learning more about yourself. Therefore, through competition, learning more about yourself and what you're capable of and how to improve. I think it's the most important thing. And broadening your horizons falls into that. Some Smashers, I hear how many stories have you heard of I took my first plane ride to Genesis, right? The first time I ever got on a subway was in Oakland, right? All these Smashers who just need these world experiences. This is talking beyond, obviously, bigger picture shit than playing a really good Belmont from Brazil or whatever. I don't know, bullshit like that. So I think it's just, and I think a lot of people have learned in that way, booked their first flights to go to SmashCon or whatever it is, what I mean? Learned how to drive on a highway, wanted to get their driver's license because they want to go to locals and shit. That's the cool shit to me. Obviously the competition's great and I love all that too. That's very important to me, but actually growing and taking something, walking away from this community with something that will impact you actually in a positive way for the rest of your life is actually what matters. And it could be through competition. It could be through real life shit that you learn, friendships that you make along the way, all that bullshit, that's important. So go places, man, and do things. I think Mars is one of his favorites. I think he was Dubai, if I'm not mistaken, but he went with I think ESAM went too, and a couple of them went, and they lost a couple sets as well. Like I think they did round robin pool, so we could play them. So it was Smash 4. But yeah, they got to go to Dubai, and I know that's one of his favorite like memories of all time. And it's just to have connections with people all across the world. It's so cool. And it's such a good growing and learning opportunity for young Smash players, especially, man.
Oh yeah, totally. I think traveling is super important. Like no matter what you do it for, really. Especially if you're traveling to like play a video game that you love and do all these like experiences, it just makes it all that much better. But yeah, I definitely think traveling to all these different countries with all these different people, and you get to see firsthand the different culture that maybe there's like, also maybe they don't like speak the same language as you and everything. And, you try the food and everything like that. And it really opens up your perspective and it humbles you in a sense, in that it makes you overall like wiser and more aware of like the world and how everyone's so different, and how it definitely just helps you open up your perspective and just to learn a lot more in general and create some of the best memories that cannot simply just be like recreated ever. Like every single time you travel, it's so different depending on your company, where you are, the time of year, and things like that. So definitely if you're young and want to adventure and learn a lot, I definitely think traveling in general is super important. I think it's great.
Yeah, agreed.
Especially other countries, man. I think that's huge. It's so important to broaden your horizons like that. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah, man. But I mean, all right. So lasting thoughts, gentlemen, about everything going on, getting back into the offline scene. Is there any particular things that you guys are really excited for overall? One thing that you feel like will just never be the same again? Like, I want to hear your guys' final thoughts.
So something that'll never be the same again from like previous
just in general, like to you, like, how do you feel? Is there something that you're thinking in your mind when you're going back into offline? Like, dang, man, like it's changed, man. It won't be the same, but it is what it is. Or is there something that like, are you on the more positive side where like, hey, you know what? I can't wait because this is one thing, like I've just missed it so much, and just to be there and interact with the people and do my thing. There's nothing like it in the world. It's like, I just want to hear from you guys, like how you guys feel about everything personally, us all going back into the fold.
For me, it's definitely, so this whole offline era, especially with the players I've coached, I've noticed that since the players I've coached before, Void and Tweak, they've kind of been getting way more into content. Void's always been big on content, but Tweak especially has been getting into content a lot. And even just like their personalities, they're very good at doing educational content, pretty similar to like my personality, which is why I think I do really well coaching them. Like I think we just have similarities in like personalities. So it's really cool to see them get more into educational content, push that more. They're even to the point where they're coaching players, and they'll even like hit me up and ask me like, oh hey, like I had this one person, blah blah blah. And it's really cool because I mean, realistically, the only other person I've talked to that kind of stuff about is like with Bam, and even like Has, or I mean, like other commentators or other older figures in the community. So it's really cool to see the younger generation of players kind of get into that role of coaching and teaching the game to other players, and that's the kind of shit that I get super hyped for. I love teaching. I love like when people get brought into the community, kind of having that welcoming feeling of like, hey, this game is fucking sick and let's learn it together. Let's push the meta. Like, let's give the people that watch our game like a really sick show because this game is super hype. And to me, that's the most exciting part to me. That other top players are kind of getting more into educational content and teaching other players stuff instead of only focusing on, or more so focusing on, just their competition. Obviously, that'll probably shift more towards competition when competing comes back. But the fact that like they're still getting into that is, to me, it's like the most exciting thing about us transitioning from this online into offline. I think that's like something I look forward to.
For me, and call it I think it's a positive thing. It's a learning experience, but I think everyone's going to be a little more aware of their surroundings. You know what I mean? And not in terms of personal space, in terms of like just not spreading germs and all that shit. Like I think we've all kind of learned a respectful distance to stay away from people. Hopefully it kind of stays that way. And also just keeping an eye out and looking out for each other. I think that's the most important thing to do kind of going forward as a community. We need to learn and grow from the wounds that had happened last year. And I think we're in a good position to do that. And I think coming back offline, we said it's like it's baby steps. You just got to walk forward, a little step at a time and take it, one little piece at a time and just keep going from there. And the community will, react and will all kind of guide through the best ways to get forward through the initial period of having new people there. So I think awareness is going to be a big one. Yeah. And then I also think there's just going to be, I'm excited to see all the new stuff, new characters, new patch, new characters, especially, man. I think that's going to be awesome. And the new players. I want to see how the new players do. I really want to see some beef between Wi-Fi, all-stars and the offline people, from the before days, basically. Like, I can't wait to see that shit, man. It's going to be great. I just really want to. It was nice having a little break, honestly, from tournaments. I'm sure you guys felt the same way. Like, the first couple of weeks, you're like, oh, shit, I get to be home this weekend. That's pretty cool. I can cast from home. That's pretty cool. Now I'm like, I miss it, man. It's definitely, Smash has always been a passion project for myself and for you guys, obviously, as well. So I definitely, it's my passion. I miss it. So just going to be happy to be back there and figure everything out as we go, and have some plans. If they don't work, then adjust them and keep going from there.
Yeah, for sure. I'm definitely curious to see how any and all new like safety measures will be implemented through the scene and the whole like awareness thing as well. But I'm very excited to see the beginning and how these baby steps really pan out, how quickly the meta will or won't shift, and what people may or may not discover when all of these things come back, and all the content that's might surround that too. Like, are people going to just try and pick up where they left off, where they sort of just go there just to play, just purely not trying to like just for the the love of playing, just because they miss it so much? Or are we going to see people really take advantage of trying to cover all these things that are happening? Are they going to create new and brand new content that we haven't really seen before? Are they going to sort of take advantage of the fact that there's a lot of hype surrounding these events and sort of create things around that'll get a lot of eyes, and then possibly even, help bring the community back to be even stronger? Things like that are what I'm definitely looking forward to in terms of coming back relatively soon, I would say. Just all that exploration and content about it, I think.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I definitely I'm really excited to see kind of content and what the new form of content is going to be, like you said, once we kind of go back into the fold. And that, I think that you touch on a really big point there, right? Like it's going to be a kind of great reset, that, as it were, right? Like, yeah, there's going to be some things that change the same, but there's a lot of things that are going to kind of like essentially just be restarted here. And if the community does come together right now, right, and we really start to think about how we are going to go back into tournaments, how can we elevate these players who are now gone into content creation in this way, right? How can we make sure that some of these community figures who are trying to build a better, safer environment, how do they get compensated? How can we come together and, get to a point where we can build sponsorship, packages, not just for like one tournament, but kind of looking for all, like, and this kind of like wild, wild west where we're not working together to overall like just rise the value of our community, right, on a sponsor and marketing level, which allows us to do more with our community. Like there's so much that's going to happen when we return offline around the world, right? And I think there is a way that we can really take this to heart and build something incredible, man. And maybe it can be the push that happens, that changes things, that makes us into a bona fide esport, right? Like, I feel like there's something special about this time right now that can allow us to maybe, circumvent that gap that we've never been able to do before if we come together. And I think that more people are talking than they were before because they're not caught up in their own bubbles. We're forced in an online environment, right? So people are talking to each other. And so I think it's more probable, right? I see more TOs talking to each other than I've ever seen before, right? People being like, okay, we got to work together with these things. Like, I don't think a Smash World Tournament on how like stuff usually runs would be done like this if it wasn't for quarantine. I feel like a lot of people would just be like, hey, well, I need my cut, I need this, I need that, I need this, and no one would work together, right? So I think it's that's a very big thing here, and so I think that's what I'm really excited for. I want to see that. Obviously, when it comes to the game, man, I just need all the new stuff. I want to see the new stuff. I'm really excited for some people just bring out the hype shit that makes the cheapest crap. I don't care. Like, I want to see the stuff that just hurts people's soul, and they're like, I came out of quarantine for this? I got body like this? Yes,
I'm going back
yes,
in.
you did. Yes, you did. That's what I want to see. I want to see some Steve Main just come there, freaking floss on someone, give them the clown fiesta, kill them at 0. Like, I can't wait. Like, I know people are they got some tech, and I want to see all the tech. I want to see it all. I want to see all the pain, all the glory. I'm really happy about that. But like outside of the game, I'm very much like similar to Pause. Like, I want to see the content that comes out. I want to see how we kind of all come together and really try to build something special and really rally behind this thing. I know a lot of companies are looking at things as well too in that way, right? Everyone's kind of waiting for this big offline, and there's going to be a huge pie there in terms of like budget and support and all these kind of things. And I'd really love to see us figure this out, man. I feel like our community can do it. I really want to see it. So,
agree. All right.
Well, I think that's it for this episode. If you guys enjoyed the content, make sure to like and subscribe. Ring that bell for the notifications, and let us know in the comments what you are excited for when offline returns. And we'll see you next time.
Take it easy.
See ya.
Peace.